Hey everyone, it's Griffin here, and in today's video, we'll be talking about 9 things that you'll want to be aware of this summer if you own a Tesla, be it a Model 3, Y, X, or even S. Now, the summer months are typically easier to deal with than winter months for your Tesla, especially for your battery. However, it is not without its own set of issues that you want to be aware of. So yeah, I'm going to tell you what you need to do and avoid doing when the temperature rises and you're about to take your Tesla out for a spin. And it doesn't matter where you live, with the summer months right around the corner, you should avoid making these mistakes. So let's jump in. Alright, so just like in the extreme cold, extreme heat is something that will likely also reduce the full range of your Tesla. And the reason for this is that when you're driving your vehicle in the summertime, well, you're likely going to experience a degraded range simply because you're running the AC constantly and on full blast, which does eat up quite a bit of battery. And even if you're not running the AC continuously, the vehicle's total range may still be impacted just by the nature of the heat and its impact on the battery. Luckily, Tesla does have a feature that helps with this though, as high voltage batteries are going to be temperature regulated throughout your driving to stay within optimal utilization temperatures. But while temperature regulation does definitely help keep your battery life optimal and extend your range on any given drive in extreme heat, well, the fans used to accomplish this are still having to work overtime to cool down said battery, which again will have an impact on your estimated EPA range. For example, I recently drove to Florida, and while driving on the I-95 in 30-degree weather, the batteries were constantly preconditioning, but by cooling the batteries down for optimal supercharging rather than, say, heating them up, which I'm definitely more used to as a Canadian who often drives in colder temperatures. So to help extend your Tesla's range as much as possible during the summertime, Tesla suggests lowering your windows before driving to vent the vehicle, which you can do by going to your app, clicking climate, and then selecting the venting option. Additionally, I would suggest using the seat ventilation feature if you own a new Model 3 or Model Y, as this will use quite a bit less energy to cool down your back and legs rather than full blast AC. Also, while driving, Tesla suggests driving with your windows up and the climate mode set to auto in order to reach maximum efficiency. Again though, you'll still most likely lose out on some range depending on how hot the day is, so just keep that in mind. Now, here's a Tesla feature that can do some good. However, it's going to really eat away at your battery on those hot days when you're trying to keep your car charged. So Tesla has a feature called cabin overheat protection, and this is an ambient cooling feature that aims to help keep your cabin from getting too hot. Let's say it's parked in direct sunlight, right? And this is even after you leave your vehicle or you're not driving it. Now, this is definitely an interesting feature that I have used on occasion in the past. However, it's not necessarily one that you're going to want to use all the time if you're looking to preserve your battery, right? Keep in mind, if your Tesla is parked in the hot sun, well, you could see cabin temperatures reaching 140 or even 150 degrees, which means your Tesla would have to constantly be working to lower your interior cabin temperature with the AC. Assuming you'd be parked somewhere for multiple hours at a time on a hot day though, well, you can imagine that this will easily drain your battery and use a lot of its charge. Tesla itself even says that using cabin overheat protection does require energy from the battery, of course, which may decrease range. So yeah, it's safe to assume that you should only use this feature when daily driving and charging. On occasion though, I do keep it on during the summer months when my car is parked in the driveway in the beating heat to help the cabin stay a little bit cooler, but the car is also pretty much always plugged in when parked in my driveway, and so that is going to maintain the battery state of charge. Also keep in mind that this isn't the only feature you can use to cool your cabin. As I mentioned earlier, you can use Tesla's venting feature or cool down the cabin manually from the app using the climate controls, which can be a much more energy efficient method. Just make sure that you aren't leaving your windows rolled down if you're parked in a sketchy area. Okay, let's talk about an accessory that a lot of Tesla owners may not even be aware of, but you absolutely should consider in the summer. I'm talking about roof shades, where in the summer, these little things are irreplaceable when it comes to keeping your Tesla cool and the temperature inside the cabin manageable, either while your car is parked in the driveway or even if you're out running errands. Now, Tesla roofs are already heavily tinted. Even still though, they let in a lot of light, and the heat of the glass can get extremely high and even cause burns, especially if you have, say, young children in the back seats that might reach up and touch the glass. There are multiple types of roof shades available for Teslas. You can buy simply installable roof shades like the ones available through Tesla directly, although those are a bit pricey. Like all other accessories directly from Tesla, a better alternative would be to buy some from Amazon, which you can find a link to down below in my video's description and pinned comment over on my Amazon storefront. Alternatively, you can go for a bit of an upgrade and purchase fully automatic or even manually retractable roof shades that can also be installed on your Tesla's ceiling, so that you don't have to waste your time installing or removing the roof shades whenever it gets too warm, though these options are going to be much pricier. At number 4 here, we have a very simple thing that you can do that Tesla recommends as a good practice as well. Whenever you're planning to park your Tesla, maybe you've reached your office or you're just running home from work, go ahead and turn off your AC at least 30 seconds before you park and turn off your vehicle. This is a very simple step, but you can actually reduce puddling underneath your vehicle when you do so. And this puddle is formed because the condensation that might be on your vehicle isn't allowed to evaporate. And when you park and turn off your Tesla, the water will instead drip down and then form a puddle. But by giving your Tesla a few seconds to allow the condensation to evaporate, you can reduce and almost completely prevent this puddle from ever forming. Next, however, I want to talk about something that is a non-negotiable when it comes to keeping your Tesla operating during the summer. And this is going to be scheduling at-home charging for your vehicle. Now, this is already a very good general idea to begin with, because if you do prepare ahead and charge your Tesla overnight, you'll probably end up saving money in the long run if your utility provider has tiered and scheduled pricing. But in the summer, this becomes even more important, because keep in mind that during the day, your Tesla is going to be working overtime to cool off its batteries. The way this works is that while the car is plugged in and taking in energy, well, the car wants to have the battery at the optimal temperature. So it's either going to be cooling or heating up the battery depending on the time of the year. If it's in direct sunlight in the sun though, and you're trying to charge it, chances are it's going to be running the fans in order to cool down the battery and have optimal charging. This is especially true when you are supercharging. And so this also means that it's going to be using battery and cooling itself down to actually achieve this, making it overall more inefficient. So you can easily schedule your car for charging from the Tesla menu by just going to schedule and then charging. And all you have to do from here is set a schedule for when your car starts charging and when to finish charging, which means that you can set this up for when you want to get home from work and actually get your Tesla in some shade, or even possibly your garage overnight if possible. Okay, now at number 6 here, we have a feature that you should absolutely take advantage of if you're, say, running into the store to get groceries or run some errands and you don't want to spoil things in your car. So what is this feature? Well, let's say you have to run into the store for around 15-20 minutes or so. Well, you obviously don't want your Tesla having to work to bring the temperature in the cabin back down from, say, a ridiculous 150 degrees that it could very well get in the cabin. Keep climate on mode is actually very similar to, say, dog mode, which can also be used to keep the cabin temperatures at a controlled range. The only difference is that dog mode will display the temperature on screen in a large number, so anyone walking by can see that your dogs are being kept cool. That, by the way, is another non-negotiable to be aware of and utilize if you're bringing your dogs with you to run errands during the summer. Last thing we want to see here are dogs locked in a 150-degree cabin. Next up, here's a very big point that a lot of Tesla owners in hot climates will find out the hard way. You cannot at any point ignore your air filters or not replace them for an extended period of time, especially in the summer, as this is a time period when the filters need frequent replacements the most. Tesla typically recommends changing your air filter every 2 years or so, but honestly in hot climates, especially hot and humid climates like Florida or Canada in the summer, these filters will need to be changed much quicker. What ends up happening is that over time, these filters can end up becoming clogged with leaves, other debris, and even mold spores. And then when moisture builds up within your air conditioning system, this can end up making your cabin smell extremely bad. And because rising temperatures can increase moisture and mold growth, it's therefore very easy for your Tesla's system to start giving off that musty smell if you haven't replaced the filters in a while. And by the way, if you're worried about the difficulty of doing this on your own, it's actually really not a big deal. You don't even have to call Tesla service to do this. The process is very simple, and Tesla actually has a full detailed guide on how to change your filter on their website. Plus, you can save some money by buying new filters yourself on my Amazon storefront, which are much cheaper than the ones from Tesla. So this is something you always want to do during the summer, which is maintaining the correct air pressure in your tires. And this is all about finding that sweet spot for air pressure so that your tires don't wear out too quickly, especially when running your car on extremely hot roads. And here's the interesting thing. Obviously, cold air is going to make your tires have less pressure, right? It's going to decrease the air pressure, but in hot summer months, it will do the opposite. For this reason, you should always check your tire pressure on hot days and potentially even let out a bit of air if you need to. Even if it's just a few PSI change, this is an easy way to make sure that your Tesla's wheels stay within their optimal range. And of course, to counter this, Tesla also recommends not parking directly in the sunlight or without shade, as your tire pressure can actually become quite inflated past a healthy point that is going to be optimal for range as well as tire wear. For example, when I park in my own driveway, well, depending on the time of day and how the sun is hitting the car, well, the tires on one side will often increase in pressure by a couple PSI. It's not the end of the world, but definitely be aware of this. Plus, when you're driving long distances on the highway in the heat, your tires will massively increase in pressure. For example, again, during my recent trip to Florida on the I-95, the heats were extremely high for the outside ambient, but also on the pavement itself. And the tire pressure, I didn't check, but ended up reaching 48 PSI. So I removed some air from the tires to bring it back down to that 42 range. We're almost through the summer tips and tricks here, but there's one last useful feature for your summertime driving that you really shouldn't be missing out on if you haven't been using it yet, and that is the scheduled departure feature. Scheduled departure manages your HVAC as well as the battery temperature before you leave each day. If say you commute to work each morning, and it can make sure that you're starting your day off with your battery at the right temperature as well as your interior cabin. When you use scheduled departure, you're able to precondition the cabin while your vehicle is plugged in, which will get your Tesla to the proper temperature without using any additional energy from the battery itself, as it's still plugged in and just pulling juice from the grid. This is a great way to extend your battery life and range, and you can easily set up the scheduled departure feature using the charging menu or your Tesla app, like I'm doing right now. If you enjoyed the video, make sure to leave it a like and consider subscribing to the channel. I post every single week on Saturdays about Tesla related content. Also, if you want to support the channel, easiest way to do so is by using the links down below in this video's description to either sign up to any of my affiliates like Amber, for example, to extend your Tesla's warranty, or purchasing any accessories from my Amazon storefront, along with picking up a $5 delivery day checklist over on my website. Thanks a lot for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.